I think that, and you touched on Vader, and I'm going to touch on Vader for a second, too, while I talk about Kylo Ren. Still probably more so in the negative, but I thought about Kylo Ren, and I was like, I hate that he's whiny, I hate that he's angsty, I hate that he's throwing temper tantrums, and then I thought of Anakin, and I was like, well, Anakin did the exact same thing, so am I beating on this horse for being exactly the same as the horse I love? Like, am I doing that? And I thought, okay, Anakin was definitely whiny, he was definitely brash, and he was definitely, probably, if you had left him as Anakin, he definitely would have never have been the guy. Like, he would have never been able to be that main imposing force. I mean, he even killed his love. He even killed Padme. He killed her. He had a breakdown. The difference here is, and, well, hold on. Before I go to the difference, because I even thought about it, too, with Kylo Ren killing all the Academy and stepping away. Like, that's the same thing Vader did. Vader killed all the Academy, killed the kids, and he stepped away. He was still angsty, whiny. He lost to Obi-Wan because he was... And this Obi-Wan, he's way better than Rey, but okay, I'll give the pass because Kylo lost to Rey, Anakin lost to Obi-Wan. Can we compare those? Okay, we'll compare them just for the mere fact that I'm being nice about it. And I thought, I'm giving Kylo way too hard of a time. I am. I'm giving him way too hard of a time. And then I sat back and I thought about Kylo Ren and Darth Vader, and I realized that I was comparing Kylo Ren to Anakin when I should have been comparing Ben Solo to Anakin and Kylo to Darth Vader, because that's who they became after they turned to the dark side. And let's be honest, after Vader turned to the dark side, no more was I like, man, this dude is a pushover pussy. Like, no more of that. Everyone was scared of him. And then anybody who wasn't scared of him, he force choked him out. Like, he took over. He wasn't scared of the Emperor. Like, Kylo is kind of scared of Snoke, which is okay because Snoke is powerful and all that, but Vader would kind of just do as he pleased. No one really told Vader what to do. Now, there was people who were above Vader, and Vader did listen to them, but also Vader was imposing. He was threatening. Like, he would always say, I'll listen, but my patience has an end. Whereas Kylo was like, nothing. He just reminded me of this guy who got told no, slapped on the hand, and then he went through his fit in his room after he slammed his door, and that was it. And that's where I think that Kylo is not strong enough to hold a movie by himself. He's not going to threaten me with this. I'm wondering now, not how do the Rebels win, because I already think they won. I just want to know now, the question is, when? When do they win? Like, how far into the movie are you going to try to make me believe that Kylo Ren is the mastermind behind something amazing? Because you've already made him look like a fool. You killed Phantasm, who was maybe the strongest of the soldiers for the First Order. She's dead. You made General Hughes look like a fool, and now he's being pressed around by Kylo Ren, and you killed Snoke. So, what do we have? I just don't understand what we have, and that's where I think I left a movie at that point when Snoke died. I was drawn out, and while people say that this was probably a great ending with Luke joining with the Force and going into the Force and all that good stuff, I don't think that I was able to focus on that movie after Snoke died, because the fact I was sitting there the whole time going, how are they going to make Kylo Ren look strong? And they never did. They just never made him look strong. They made him seem like he was just another character on the side of the First Order, and now there's no real leader.
That's a pretty good comparison that you made with comparing Kylo Ren or Ben Solo with Anakin. And it would be kind of cool if it was a intentional thing where he was supposed to be whiny just like Anakin was, and that they were actually going to make him into a more imposable character. It just stands to reason, though, do we have enough time in this trilogy?
There's only one movie left.
Yeah, and like, and which makes me wonder, is the series that Rian Johnson is making, which he directed this movie, and he will be directing the follow-up trilogy that's set to happen. Okay, I don't know if he's directing it. I know he's overseeing it, in the same way that J.J. Abrams overseed this series. Will it carry on from this stuff? I was under the impression that it was going to be a different series altogether, or not necessarily.
That's what I am under the impression of, is that they're writing a whole entire new trilogy.
In which case, it doesn't seem like we have enough time for him to become a formidable character. It's kind of like we did a mishmash of the original and the prequel trilogy with the Anakin character. But we, instead of focusing on the quote-unquote good trilogy, we focused more on the prequel trilogy's Anakin instead of the Darth Vader character. We're getting more of the Anakin than we are the Darth Vader, which if we're still sticking with the comparison. And the only difference is I think that Kylo Ren's character is much more interesting than what Anakin was in the prequel trilogy. Like, I can see where it could slowly become something. It's just we don't seem to have enough time to make him into it. And that goes back to what I said, is we're not where we're supposed to be with Episode 9.
I didn't hate Kylo Ren in Episode 7. I really liked it. I thought Episode 7 was one of the best of the entire series. I really liked it. I thought that this movie would push him over the edge. I thought maybe that the first time he fought Rey in the woods, he was just kind of in shell shock. He killed his father. He wasn't ready for her. He kind of underestimated her. But it turns out that in Episode 8, he's still just as weak as opposed to that. And that's one of the things where I don't like Rey. I told you I'd come back to that. There's 2 reasons I don't like Rey in this movie. And one of them is she bested Luke. She bested Luke.
Like, she hasn't had any moments to come into her own. She just started out into her own.
She bested Luke. You can't best Luke. Luke is supposed to be the trainer. He's supposed to be the last Jedi that there is. And he's supposed to be one of the strongest Force users. He's carrying the name of Skywalker. And you beat him up with a stick. And it just was so weird. And
like the hero's journey starts out as a hero.
Right. And she never had time to build. Like, in Episode 7, I thought that they were building her well. And then at the end of that, like I said, I kind of gave her the victory over Kylo because of the fact that Kylo was downtrodden. He was distraught. And she kind of had this surge, like, I need to win because I just saw Han. So I thought that in Episode 8, we would see a reverse of those roles. And that we would see that Kylo was the stronger of the two, that his training with Snoke and with Luke had made him a more formidable character. And I thought that he would be solid. Turns out that he wasn't. Turns out that he's just a pushover still. And that Rey, for some reason, is still so strong that she could beat him in everything that they do. Which would have been fine, except for the movie tells me that Luke was so scared because he had never felt one so strong in the Force until he met Ben Solo. So you're telling me that they have the same strength in the Force, but she is so much better than him without any training at all. It just makes him look weak. It makes him look like he's nothing. It makes him look like he's a pansy. And that's why I don't like Rey's character in Episode 8. Not because of her, but because of what she did. She bested Luke, which made Luke look even more like a lame duck. And she bested Kylo Ren yet again, which means that Kylo Ren, the most formidable person of the First Order, is now nothing. He means nothing. He is nothing. He's not scary. He's not imposing. Nobody in his own army is scared of him. Why in the world should the rebels be scared of him? And that's what I don't like. So, with that, I asked the question of, is Snoke really dead? And I've got my fingers crossed, honestly, that they do the entire line that he's mastered death, and he's not really dead. He's Darth Plagueis, he's mastered death, he's lived through one apprentice killing him, now he's lived through 2. And that in the end, that we're going to see Kylo and Rey having to team up, that they've been teasing, having to team up to kill Snoke. Because Snoke is going to come back and take over the First Order, and he's going to be really, really mad. And you're going to see that. And he's so strong that you watch him just kind of throw Rey with ease around the room. And so I'm wondering if that is the direction that they're going. Is that Snoke is going to come back, and he's going to say that he's mastered death, and he's outlasted 2 apprentices now, and he's going to kill Kylo Ren. Which, at the end, I don't think he'll kill Kylo Ren, but I think that we're going to bring Kylo Ren back to the light, and we're going to bring Rey to the light, or to the dark, and we're going to meet in the middle, and we're going to have the Great Jedi. And that's how they're going to be formed, with a new group that they're going to teach to not be good, to not be bad, but to use the Force. And that they're going to team up to kill Snoke. It's the only way that I could think of that is going to save Episode 9. And that is where I'm going to be hyped about Episode 9, is with this idea that Snoke is definitely not dead, and that they are just leading us to believe he is, and that Ben is going to have to team up with Rey in the end, and Rey is going to have to team up with Ben. They're not going to have a choice, because Snoke is just so strong that alone they cannot beat him. So, that's what I hope. One last thing that I really... Well, there's 2 last things that I want to hit on before we do rapid fire. Is one, that for the first time in the history of the major motion pictures of Star Wars, no one with the last name of Skywalker is alive. Ben Solo, of course, is connected to his mother, Leia, who was a Skywalker, but there's no character with the last name of Skywalker, and I'm not really sure how I feel about that. Like, there is no Skywalker left in a movie that was about the Skywalkers. It's no more Skywalkers.
I think that's actually probably for the best. Like, that we can let something go to bed and move on.
I almost thought of it, though, like, what would a Harry Potter movie be without a Potter? Like, I mean...
It would be fantastic.
I had to do it because we needed to talk about Harry Potter in at least one of these, and I noticed that in Rogue One we didn't talk about him.
Oh, we missed out.
And we didn't talk about him in Episode 7, so I needed to say something about Harry Potter. But yeah, there's no Skywalker now. There's 0 Skywalkers. And that's weird. I don't know. I don't know that it takes me out of the movie. I don't know that it really changes a lot. And maybe you're right that we needed to let that go to bed. But it's really weird. It's really weird that we have no Skywalkers left. Now, Leia is technically part of the Skywalkers, but of course she's either going to die early in the movie or whatever. And she's definitely right, and she's definitely not named Skywalker. She's not Leia Skywalker. Yeah. So it's odd to think that Luke going and joining the Force killed the name of Skywalkers. And honestly, I mean, there was only 2 of them anyways, Anakin and Luke. But I mean, it was a Star Wars Skywalker story, and that is the most famous name out of the Star Wars that you will ever hear is Skywalker. I mean, maybe Darth Vader, but Skywalker is definitely the biggest family name. So this is the lead into the movie, to the final of the new trilogy. Of the next line of Star Wars. And we learned some, not a lot. We saw backstory. I'm not sure how I feel about it. And we were given the hype for the last of the movies. With the movie over, and with time for it to settle in, since you watched it, let's do a rapid fire discussion of the movie. Alright?
Alright, cool.
Alright, so, in your opinion, and these are quick, we're not going to go into detail about them, we're just going to say it because we already did kind of talk on this. But we're just going to say, in your reason, I don't care if it's the dumbest thing you've ever thought of. I want to know, why do you think Leia can use the Force all of a sudden?
Jesus.
I
have no idea.
Jar Jar Binks gave his life so that Leia could use the Force. That's all I have. If you guys have something better, though, and you guys actually know why Leia could use the Force, and I'm just missing something... or Nick's just missing something,
maybe I'll leave it in the comments. Yeah, maybe I'll look it up.
Leave it. So, did this movie get you hyped up for Episode 9?
No.
I'm going to say no as well. I really hope that they are going in the direction that I said, but do I think that they will? Probably not. I'm not hyped for Episode 9. Will I go see it in theaters? Probably. Will Kylo Ren ever live up to Vader?
I hope so.
No. My answer is no. Is Rey big enough to carry a movie with no other names? With no Skywalkers, is Rey big enough to be the main character?
I want to say yes.
I'm going to say possibly. Does this even feel like Star Wars anymore?
Yes, definitely.
This movie didn't, but I'm hoping that overall it will. Rating the movie out of 10, go.
7.51.
7.51. I'm going to say it was a solid 7.7.
I gave it 0.01 over The Force Awakens.
I believe that it was better than The Force Awakens. I believe that Force Awakens was probably either the first or second best movie, and I flip-flop back so much between The Empire and the Force Awakens, and I don't know, but it's probably whichever one I watch last. Like, so if I watch Force Awakens, it's now my favorite. If I watch The Empire Strikes Back, it's probably now my favorite. I know this one will never be. So Star Wars Episode 7 is probably still better than this one, and that's where I think I'll leave it. So if you guys have...
I was gonna say, well, in my opinion, in your rankings of it right now, you would say Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Then you would say Rogue One, or would you say The Last Jedi?
If we're going in the new movies?
Yeah, just so far, because we're gonna go ahead and talk about the other ones, but just quick ranking.
So if we're going just seven. If we're going 7, 8, Rogue One, my order is probably 7, Rogue One, 8.
Curious. Mine is, I think 8, and it was a difficult thing. I'm very, very difficult in this. 8, then 7, very, very close. I just like the ideas that are implemented in 8 more than I like the ideas entered in 7. I think that they are more unique and more original. And then very, very distant over here is Rogue One for me right now. That's where I stand.
So for now, this concludes our discussion of 7, Rogue One, and 8. We're thinking about going back and doing the original 6, or the original 3 and the prequels, as some people like to call them. But we're going to go back and touch on those. We'll rank those later. But if you guys want to chime in and say how you guys ranked 7, 8, and Rogue One, you guys are more than welcome to in the comments down below. We'll look at those, and hey, maybe you guys can change our minds. Until then, like, subscribe, and share, and thanks for listening, guys.